What's going on, boys? NealGuides here. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to go over defensive structures and defensive phases. We're going to go over some of the most common ways goals are conceded in FIFA 22 in particular. I'm going to explain to you what I do to help prevent myself from conceding these goals. I've done this through some bit of testing and I found that a lot of people concede goals via counter-attacks, plays in the final third in the central areas. We're going to go through some examples. I'm going to show you how I defend them and some tricks you can easily implement into your game. Okay, now one of the first examples I want to show you is a typical counter attack. So I'll let this play out first just so you can see the phases. A lot of people, when they have players going forward or when your opponent is playing very, very deep, or if there is a corner, sometimes you may misplace a pass, you may lose the ball, or your opponent wins the ball back and you end up getting counter-attacked. Now, the biggest way people struggle is they see that the goals are going to get in through and behind. Now, the common thing I can advise you to do is just run back. If you anticipate a through ball is coming, just run back. So we're going to go back to this phase over here and we're going to rewind it. So you can see at this point, I end up doing an aggressive tackle. My opponent is a ball away. Then as soon as you see one of these players, now the key thing to focus on is these players. As soon as you see their arms sticking out, that means they're going to be making a through ball in behind. So the best thing to do is just simply select your defender. Now there's two ways you can select them. There'll be a video on player switching as well. That will be coming up soon in the masterclass series, but simply flick your right analog stick to the defender if you're on player relative or if you're on ball relative towards the defensive line. Or you press the L1 button. Now don't forget, if you press the L1 or the LB button, it'll only switch to this player guaranteed if that mark is above their heads. I always suggest a right stick flick. So for example, here I can see my opponent is getting ready. There's a 1-2 with Messi, and you see how Messi's hand is sticking out? Now that is my cue. As soon as I see that, if you're not sure, select the furthest defender backwards and simply just run back. So you can see, for example, like here, I select the defender and I simply just run back, and that way you can defend the danger. Even if he doesn't make the pass, let's say for example he decides to do a regular pass, at least you're in a position to react. The mistake a lot of players make is they try to play the player offside or they try to go forward. If you do that, you will get countered. I'll show you a brief couple of more examples where I can explain this in a bit more detail. Okay, now this is a typical example from your corner. Sometimes you'll get a corner and sometimes you actually try to build up. Because you got your centre backs, as you can see, Walker is up front, you end up getting counter-attack. It's the same thing here. I make an initial mistake, but I make sure with the final defender, I'm there to recover. And that is how you defend or prevent the through ball meta, as it's known. So the key thing is, so as you can see here, I'll just go back to show you the segment. So that's my defender. My defender is meant to be inside the box, but the way the game sees it is these players can header the ball, so it pushes them high up the pitch for a corner. Because the whole phase started from here. And sometimes, you know, if you're not aware, you might do a 1-2 send that defender going forward. The key thing at this point is to make sure you just run back. But we all make mistakes. Sometimes we think we can get the ball. So for example, like here, I thought I can get the ball. So I tried to be aggressive and you see the mistake was made. But I was able to then switch to my defender and you see, even if I don't know he's making a pass, I'm just running back way in front of him. And you can see even over there when the pass is being made, the opponent's attacker actually catches up. So it's important to make sure you're always about 2 steps ahead of him. That way you do have that ability. Now, the most important thing I would say is in terms of defenders, when you make the mistake, so for example, like here, you can see here I press the L1 button because the burgundy kind of gold icon is above my head. Now, the most important thing I want to mark over here is make sure you have a defender that's pacey. This is why I say for centre backs, try to go above 80 sprint speed and put a shadow on them. Try to get as close as you can to 99 sprint speed, because even though the patch that came out recently, it never patched through balls over the ground. This is where the most common goals are conceded are from counter attacks. Now the problem is that if you have a slow player here, you will not be able to recover. You can see even with Manafa, this is the Champions League Manafa, you can see that I still almost get caught in behind. Thankfully, my positioning was good to recover. So the most important thing is make sure you have a fast player there. If you don't have a fast player there, I would strongly suggest you switching to a fast player. But let's say, for example, you're playing seasons and you're not playing Ultimate Team and you haven't got a choice, then just go further in front. So before the danger even happens, you need to make sure you're already running like I have, and that way you're in a position to recover. And don't forget, if he doesn't pass the ball, you're always behind where you can recover afterwards. So the most important thing is just to run back before the danger actually appears. Now moving over to another defensive phase, another common one people concede, and people have always told me to defend down the wing areas. Now The way that I defend around the wing areas is I use teammate contain. Now there'll be a video on the masterclass series in regards to teammate contain, so please refer to that video. But in terms of teammate containing, it is very, very important that when you use it with the right players. I would strongly say, unless you know how to defend properly, only use teammate contain if you know how to defend properly, because what happens is essentially it brings a player out of position. And that's why I say you always want to keep your back form position. Never use teammate contain or second man press, should I say, with any of your back four. But let's say you're down the wing, it's a good appropriate time to use teammate contain. Now what I normally do is, I'll mark the player in yellow that I'm going to use teammate contain with. I try to select a player so I can defend the cutback and use teammate contain with my wing back. And this is the only place where I'd use teammate contain with my back four. Now the benefit of this is that with teammate contain, you can see, for example, like here, I can then select the player that I want to, and I can then man mark the danger area myself. Do you see that? So you can see I position myself ahead of Mbappe, and where Neymar is, that way he passes the ball to my feet. So I'm able to control the dangerous situation myself. So what I do by holding the R1 button is I offload teammate contain the responsibility to my defender, in particular my wing back. So AI will keep him contained. Now don't forget, teammate contain, the players do run out of stamina. Please refer to my masterclass series on second man press or teammate contain. But even at this point, you can see it's enough to keep him at bay, and it allows me to run inside the box. And as you can see, it's allowing him, putting pressure on him, and allows me to win the ball back. So using teammate contain to apply pressure to the winger while you manually track the person in the middle, because AI doesn't track these runs perfectly. You'll find that a lot of the times your opponent runs down the wing, and as you can see, Mbappe is free. If he makes a pass, he will score. But if you control it manually like I did, it's very easy to defend a situation, and this is where lots of goals are conceded, because people are defending very narrow and letting people go down the wing. So in turn, a lot of goals are being conceded from cutbacks or passes inside the box. Here's another common example. In this situation, I have a red card to show you I've been outnumbered. You can see I've only got one CDM, and he ends up bringing the ball. You can see if I am using teammate contain, I'm applying a bit of pressure, but I'm not letting them run out. This will come with skill and development as you play the game more, but you can see I don't bring my back four out. I use it to apply pressure, but that is all. But there'll be a video on teammate contain, as I said, on masterclass series. But when he gets down the wing, you can see here I use teammate contain to apply pressure to the ball carrier, and then I'm man marking the player in the middle. Do you see that? So I'm using the run and jockey, and I'm holding the R1 button to apply teammate contain with my defender down the wing. Now don't forget, that defender won't tackle the ball. The only way you'll win the ball is if your opponent walks into you like he did over there. So when you're defending, if you're marking the middle, teammate contain won't essentially win the ball back for you. It's just there to apply pressure and almost contain the player. So it's your responsibility to switch to defender. The only way you will get the ball is, for example, like here, if my opponent runs into me. Otherwise, there's no way you would get the ball. So the idea is you're sending a responsibility of teammate contain to the person down the wing, where you're man marking the danger area in the middle. And that way you can solidify your defense and man mark the area which you think is the most dangerous. Now, I want to show you one more final example of how teammate contain is used. And as you can see, there's no one on the wing here, but I'm already preparing, and you can see I win the ball back here. Now, although there's no one inside the box, I still want to select my defender just in case he plays for time and Neymar ends up running inside the box. I want to be there to man mark him. But you can see I end up winning the ball with teammate contain. How? Well, you can see that teammate contain, as you can see, hold the R1 or the RB button. Now, while I'm applying pressure, I switch to the defender inside the box, and I use teammate contain. As you can see, he does a Berber spin into me. So because he walks into me, I win the ball back. But the reason why is I use teammate contain here with the R1 and RB button, and I'm defending the area. Why? What if Neymar runs in last minute? If he plays for time, I need to be there in a position to recover. And if this defender does get beaten, at least I got another one. It's kind of like a backup choice. So that is the key with using teammate contain down the wing to stop the cutbacks. As we're talking about defensive lines, another thing I wanted to mention is the use of CDMs. Try not to select your back four before your CDM. So for example, here, a lot of common mistake that a lot of players make is they try to be very aggressive. Try to keep your back four, in this case a back five, as I'm using a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, in check. If you are going to be aggressive, try to be aggressive on the CDMs, and if you do misplace or you do lose the ball, your other CDM, think of him like the defensive option. I try to defend my CDMs first, never with my back four. I only select my back four if I need to, if my CDMs cannot get the ball. And I want to give you this example. So I'm not saying defend like this, but I want to show you an example. If you just stand still and you mark the key danger area, you push the responsibility to your opponent, and you can see it's his then ability to then push around. But you see, by standing in key positions, you can win the ball back. Now, I'm not saying you should defend this way, but maybe go into a game, don't touch your back four, and just keep your CDM on and stay in front of your opponent's striker, like so. And if you man mark the striker, for example, like here, and you're in a position to recover, he cannot make a pass to the striker, and then he cannot score. Now, I'm not saying you should defend this way, but while you're learning this, and you're trusting your ability, because you have to learn to trust your defenders. AI defending is actually very much overpowered, and you might see a lot of top tier players do this because they're always man marking the danger area. So what I'm essentially trying to say is, if you're really not sure about where to defend, just defend the main key area, which is the striker. And if you stay in this position and you be aggressive and there's a chance for you to win the ball, you're fine. Even if I lost the ball in this situation, it wouldn't matter too much. Why? Is because I still have my back four in shape. But if you be aggressive with your back four in the first place, then you haven't got that safety net. So the idea is using your CDM to be aggressive when the time is correct, and your back four there is kind of in place as a safety net. So essentially, what do I mean by that? Now, this is another example, as you can see, where I misplaced the header, my left back's out of position, but you can see I don't use my back four yet. I use my CDM and I use CONCEDE to win the ball back first before I select my back four. So let's go back into this phase. So you can see here, it starts all from a goal, almost like a pass back to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper boots it out. Unfortunately, I end up losing the header to Messi, of all people. And then, as you can see, once I'm in trouble, I don't run out aggressively with my defenders. I select my CDM with the L1 button or the right stick switch, and I try to position myself in between the pass. Now, this is important. It will depend on positioning, but you want to position your defender in between the passing lane. If you're not sure, let's say, for example, you're not sure you can reach the ball in time, always just run back, because that way you'll be trying to pick the ball up when the ball finally arrives. If you're, for example, a second late over here and the ball gets past you, you're in deep trouble. But if the pass has been made, but you're running back like this, if you do make the mistake, you can at least try to run back and recover. So if you're so let's say you're in a situation and you're not sure if you can get the ball, just immediately run back to the furthest attacker. So you can see, for example, like here with CONCEDE, when the pass is being made, I know that I can't get the ball here, because if I go down in time, by the time I try to cut that passing lane out, he'll simply make the pass. So I just start to run back. You see that? And that way, when he does get the ball, I'm in a position then to recover. Do you see that? And that is how I don't select my back four. I leave my back four in safe place as a safety net, and then I can be aggressive with my CDM. So you can see here I run back. Then watch when I run back, I run in front of Ronaldo, you see? So the pass, so I know I can't get the pass, I'm running to get in front of Ronaldo, and then I man mark the passing lane because I see a player from deep running through, and then I use CONCEDE. Let's say CONCEDE wasn't there. What would have happened? Let's say, for example, that was Ronaldo, and let's say CONCEDE was out of position, and let's say, for example, that was my centre back. If I ran out, this player could have gone through and behind. So if I freeze at this freeze frame, you see the important use of the defender, especially because don't forget my left back was out of position because he lost the header. So if I ended up committing with my centre back here, he would have had a straight run in behind. But because that was CDM, you can see that if CONCEDE did miss the ball, I still had one player as a safety net. So the use of CDMs is very, very important. So if there is time and space available and then you can run back in time, for example, like here, I got time to run back, then you can try to do it. Then if you ever are in trouble, like for example like here, you do get beaten, you can always switch to your defensive back line. Remember, only do this when the ball's in this area. If, for example, Ronaldo was inside the box over here, you wouldn't do that because Ronaldo will have time to take a touch and take a shot. At this situation, Ronaldo takes a touch and he takes a shot. It's a very low chance of him scoring because he's outside the box. Do you see? So as a general rule of thumb, try to do this outside the box in this area, because a lot of people concede goals in these areas over here. But if you just use your CDM, you can solidify your defense very, very easy. Remember, select your CDM. If you're not sure, run to the first attacker. You're still not sure, just run in front of him, and that way you're in a position to recover and you keep your back line as kind of a safety net. Now, the final one I wanted to show you is the corner. Now, I'm aware that this has been patched, so this is an example before the patch existed. But I want to show you that people are still going to be trying this. It's actually a very quick and effective method where you can actually try to score from this region. So now they've patched it, but the difference is that people can still score from this region. So I wanted to show you a quick trick that I use. Now, if you haven't seen my defending video for corners and set pieces on the masterclass series, please do refer back to that, because I explain how goalkeeper movement works. But you can see here I use goalkeeper movement, but what I do is when I see the cross coming in, I move the goalkeeper forward a little bit, and that way I'm in a place to recover. Because although this header has been patched, the problem is what people are doing is they're launching the ball in like this, and then they're trying to win a header, and then they're kind of passing it to another player and then shooting into the back of the net. So whereas pre-patch they were trying to score a header, nowadays they're trying to get the ball into any of this region so they can header the ball to another player. So the key thing is just move your goalkeeper. So if you see the play over there, just move your goalkeeper just a tad bit. So I want to move my camera here so you can see this in a bit more detail. Just move the goalkeeper, as you can see, up just a little bit. And that way you're in a position to recover. So if you're not sure, just simply shift the goalkeeper up, and that way he's in a better position to either punch the ball away or then to win the ball back. What I would say finally on this is do be careful. Don't use this every single time to move the goalkeeper, because if you do, your opponent may try to just shoot towards goal. As you can see with my goalkeeper up, as you can see on this side, just behind the camera, my goalkeeper's moved up, but he can take a shot towards goal. So be very careful. It's all about timing. And this is the sweet spot over here. Right here, just before he's about to make the cross, because you know when he makes the cross, he's committed. So if you move the goalkeeper now, you know that you're going to go at least to the middle and he's not going to go for a shot towards goal. But anyway, that is the 4 most common ways that goals are conceded in the defensive phases. And I explained some defensive structures that you can use, that you can put into your play. Please refer to my masterclass series in terms of set pieces, teammate contain, and just in general positioning itself to see more information about those. And these are just kind of how I defend against these situations, because don't forget, these are the 4 most common ways that people concede goals in FIFA 22. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and as I said, please refer to my masterclass series for more information.